making.
Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Mr. Douglas Carswell.
Number one, please, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will wish to join me in paying tribute to the soldiers who've died in Afghanistan in the last week. From 40 Commando, Royal Marines, Corporal Stephen Curley and Marine Scott Taylor. From the 4th Regiment, Royal Artillery, Gunner Zach Cusack. These were men of outstanding courage, of skill and of selflessness. We must never forget their sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, the House will also be alarmed and shocked by the events unfolding in Cumbria today. Police were called to Whitehaven at 10:35 this morning after shots were fired by a man, and I regret to report that a number of people have been shot and that at least 5 people have died. I can confirm that the body of a gunman has been found by the police. The Chief Constable of Cumbria is working closely with other forces and other emergency services to ensure a coordinated response to these rapidly moving events. The government will do everything it possibly can to help the local community and those affected and to keep the House informed. A full statement will be made to Parliament tomorrow. When lives and communities are suddenly shattered in this way, our thoughts should be with all those caught up in these tragic events, especially the families and the friends of those killed or injured.
Mr. Douglas Carswell.
Mr. Speaker, all parties in this House will welcome the Coalition's proposals to eliminate quangos and to shift power away from unelected functionaries to elected representatives. The biggest quango of the lot is, of course, the other place, a legislative chamber largely appointed by the executive. Will my right honourable friend confirm that he will bring forward proposals in the next 12 months to make all our lawmakers accountable through the ballot box?
Well, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for asking that question. I don't always give him I don't always give him answers that make him happy, but this time I can. There will be a draft motion by December which the House can vote on. I've always supported a predominantly elected House of Lords. I'm delighted that agreement has been reached on the coalition programme. I can already hear what a challenge around the House it is going to be to achieve the consensus that we need, but I hope that after all the promises of reform, this time we can move towards a predominantly elected second chamber.
Harriet Harman.
Mr. Speaker, can I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Corporal Stephen Curley and Marine Scott Taylor from 40 Commando, Royal Marines, and to Gunner Zach Cusack from 4th Regiment, Royal Artillery. As the Prime Minister said, they were brave men who died in the service of our country. We must never forget the sacrifice they made. And can I strongly support what the Prime Minister has said about the dreadful shootings in Cumbria? We offer our deepest sympathies to the families of those who've been killed and our strong support for the police, the emergency services and the local communities in Cumbria. Mr. Speaker, can I ask the Prime Minister about the Israeli interception of the Gaza flotilla? I'm sure he agrees that this is a tragic loss of life which has angered the Palestinians and dismayed friends of Israel too. Can he tell the House what is the current position of the British nationals who've been detained by the Israelis? And will he tell us how the government can contribute to international efforts to make the Israelis recognise that the blockade of Gaza is prolonging the suffering of the Palestinians and making peace in the Middle East even harder to achieve? This blockade must end.
Can I thank the Right Honourable Lady for what she said about our troops and also for raising the issue of these events off the coast of Gaza. I mean, what has happened is completely unacceptable. We should be clear about that, and we should also deplore the loss of life. And indeed, I've spoken to the Prime Minister of Turkey to extend our condolences for the Turkish citizens who've been lost. We should do everything we can to make sure this doesn't happen again, and I stressed this point in a conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel. In terms of our specific questions, in terms of British nationals, there are 42 British nationals caught up in this. I believe that around 37 of them have had consular access and that all of them will be coming home, and we need to make sure they are reunited with their families as fast as possible. She also raised the issue of international efforts to get the blockade open. As she knows, and as the Shadow Foreign Secretary will know, we should do everything we can through the United Nations, where Resolution 1860 is absolutely clear about the need to end the blockade and to open up Gaza. And what I would say, in addition, is this, that friends of Israel, and I count myself a friend of Israel, should be saying to the Israelis that the blockade actually strengthens Hamas's grip on the economy and on Gaza, and it's in their own interest to lift it and to allow these vital supplies to get through.
Harriet Harman.
I thank him for that answer, and I know we'll be hearing further from the Foreign Secretary in a statement immediately after these questions. Can he give me an answer to another important issue, one that I raised with him last Tuesday, about prosecuting rape? We know that it's often only after many rapes that a defendant is finally brought to court, and it's only at that point, often, when previous victims find the courage to come forward. By making rape defendants anonymous, he's going to make it harder to bring rapists to justice.
I know the Right Honourable Lady cares very deeply about this issue, as do I, and the fact that rape convictions are so low in this country is a scandal, and we need to improve on that. That means working with the police and also doing more to help rape victims, including backing rape crisis centres. On the issue of anonymity, I sat on the Home Affairs Select Committee that examined this issue. It was, of course, a committee in the last Parliament dominated by Labour members, very ably chaired by Chris Mullin. We came to the conclusion that there was a case for saying that between arrest and charge there was a case for anonymity. The coalition agreement mentions this issue of anonymity, and we will, of course, be bringing forward proposals which the House can then examine and debate. But I think there is a case for this to happen. But I understand what she says, that it is important that the publicity around a case can help bring other people who have been raped forward. So I understand her case, but I think this does represent a good way forward.
Harriet Harman.
Well, I welcome his recognition of that first point, but doesn't he also recognise that to single out rape, which is what he's proposing to do, to single out rape defendants sends a very powerful message to juries in rape cases that the rape victim is not to be believed, and it sends a devastating message to rape victims that uniquely of all victims, they are not to be believed.
Well, I don't accept that. I mean, the Home Affairs Select Committee looked at this very carefully and came to the conclusion that in this case there was a case for extending anonymity. Also because in rape cases, obviously those that have been raped have anonymity themselves, and that was the case for this limited extension. But we will be bringing forward proposals that can be debated and discussed in the House of Commons. We all want the same thing, which is to increase the number of successful rape prosecutions and to send more rapists to jail. That's what this is about.
Harriet Harman.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but I think that is a disappointing answer because he shows no understanding of the progress that's been made on prosecuting rape, and he doesn't realise how seriously this will turn the clock back. Can I turn to another area where I believe the government should reconsider, and that's the married man's tax allowance. It would only go to 1 in 3 married couples. It would cost £500 million a year. Can you tell the House how that would contribute to cutting the deficit?
Well, I'm an unashamed supporter of families and supporters of marriage. And I simply don't understand why so many other European countries, and I often remember being lectured from the other side of the House about how we should follow European examples, so many other European countries recognise marriage in the tax system, and yet we don't. So this is an issue I believe we should bring forward proposals to recognise marriage in the tax system. It's proposals that in our happy coalition they will have the right to abstain on, I'm happy to say. But I support marriage, and I say we support so many other things in the tax system, including Christmas parties and parking your bicycle at work. Why don't we recognise marriage?
Harriet Harman.
The Prime Minister knows that it will not keep couples together. He knows that. He's just hoping that it will keep his backbenchers on side. But he hasn't answered the question, is how does this planned tax cut help reduce the deficit?
if we are going to get control of public spending in the long term in this country, we should actually be targeting the causes of higher spending. And one of the causes of higher spending is family breakdown. So I think we should do far more to recognise the importance of families, the importance of commitment, and the importance of marriage. And let me just say this. Any recognition of marriage we put in the tax system will also be recognition of civil partnerships, because commitment is important whether you're straight or you're gay.
Harriet Harman.
So he's seriously saying he expects us to believe that he thinks that a £3 a week tax break, which will cost the Exchequer £500 million a year, will help keep families together. No wonder the Deputy Prime Minister is sitting so quietly by his side, because on this one, Nick agrees with me. We don't need it, it won't work, they should drop it.
I'm afraid the right honourable lady has a slightly short memory, because when she was sitting over here, an enormous recognition of marriage in the tax system was introduced by the Labour government in, wait for it, inheritance tax. They said, yes, they massively increased the threshold for inheritance tax, which can be transferred between husband and wife. Well, if recognising marriage in the tax system is such a good thing for the better off, why don't we do it for the less well off?
Sir Alan Beith. Order. I know the House wishes to hear Sir Alan Beith.
Mr. Speaker, can I associate my right honourable friends with the tributes the Prime Minister has paid to those who lost their lives in Afghanistan and those who lost their lives in the dreadful events in Cumbria? Can I ask the Prime Minister what means he hopes to use to achieve his stated and very necessary objective of allowing the private sector to expand in those parts of the country like the North East, which are heavily dependent on public sector jobs?
Well, the honourable gentleman raises an extremely important issue, because we are going to have to take difficult decisions about public spending, and everybody knows that. Let me be clear, no region of the country should be singled out, but he's right to say that some parts of the country have a very high dependence on public sector jobs. What we need to do in the budget that will come forward on the 22nd of June is to bring forward ideas that will fire up the private sector. For instance, the idea that any new firm established doesn't have to pay national insurance on the first 10 employees. I think that will help. But he's right, we should also be looking at ways that as we get the private sector growing, as we make difficult decisions in the public sector, how do we help those regions that could be adversely affected? This is something the government is looking at seriously, because we want to take the whole country with us as we deal with the £160 billion deficit bequeathed to us by the other side.
Chris Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wholeheartedly support what the Prime Minister said earlier about our armed forces, not least because a lot of young men and women from the Rhondda and from the other South Wales valleys are serving in Afghanistan and elsewhere at the moment. He will know that one of the most important things to protect our armed forces is to make sure that they have the best training, technically and in military expertise, that is possible. Will he, therefore, commit himself and his government unambiguously today to the new Defence Training College in St Athan in South Wales, which would save lives in our armed forces and provide 5,000 jobs in South Wales?
I'm grateful for the honourable gentleman's question. I mean, everyone who has spent time in South Wales and spent time with the military know that there is an incredibly strong case for the St Athan Defence Training Establishment. I've heard that case on all the visits that I have made. But he will understand that we have got to have a proper strategic defence review. We haven't had one since 1998, and everything has to be included in that review. But I would just say this to him. If he feels so strongly about this, and given that he was in the last government, there was the opportunity to give that project the go-ahead before the election, and they didn't do it.
Mr. Adam Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that we know that the last government spent £1 billion on advertising and invested £12,000 on golf balls, is the Prime Minister surprised that there's no money left?
Well, we're not really surprised, not least because of the letter we got from the former Chief Secretary. I'm glad to see that he's apologised about the letter, but he hasn't yet apologised for the legacy. My honourable friend makes a good point. In addition, I can say we've discovered £320 million being spent on hotels, £1.5 billion on consultants, and one which I have to say did really amaze me, one department spent over £140 per person on cut flowers and pot plants. Perhaps we can have a lottery to find out which one.
Jim Dobbin.
Mr Speaker, 4 high schools across my constituency are in the very last throes of the Building Schools for the Future programme. Matthew Moss High School in Castleton, Cyril Moore Sports College and Holy Family, a new joint faith school, and of course Middleton Technology College in Middleton. Can the Prime Minister guarantee that this programme will be seen through to its completion, which would also help many of the construction workers in my constituency?
I'm grateful for the honourable gentleman's question. I know that he will be pleased to see that in making the £6 billion reductions in year that we made, and many warnings were made about what that would mean, we have actually protected the school's budget and made sure that schools and Sure Start are protected. In terms of building schools for the future, let me be clear, our plans and our passion when it comes to education is to make sure that new schools are provided, to make sure we have real excellence in the secondary sector in particular. That's what it's about. Building schools for the future is exactly what our plans involve.
Karen Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is the Prime Minister aware of the case of my constituent, Mr Edmund Aralpi, who is facing extradition to Italy, having been tried in his absence? And will he look into the matter urgently and accelerate the review of extradition cases before Mr Aralpi is taken from his family and sent to an Italian jail?
Well, I'm very happy to look at this case, and I will discuss it with my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, who is bringing forward work on the whole issue of deportations. There are clearly legal processes that have to be followed, but I'll discuss it with my right honourable friend and perhaps then get in contact with the honourable member.
Mr Ronnie Campbell.
Now that the banks are coming into profit, some of them anyway, and the taxpayers now getting a little bit return on the money that they put in, the enormous amount of money that they put in, when does the Prime Minister envisage selling the shares off to his friends in the city?
Yeah. I would much rather sell the shares in the banks to the honourable gentleman's constituents. I believe in popular capitalism, and I think there might be an opportunity to do that. Clearly, there will be important decisions to make in terms of making sure, on the one hand, we get the maximum amount of money back for the taxpayer who's had to put so much money into the banks. On the other hand, we want a fully competitive banking system that serves business in this country so they don't get ripped off by the banks. And at the same time, yes, I think privatising those banks back in the private sector where they belong can help encourage popular capitalism once again.
Nadeem Zahawi.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Prime Minister join me in congratulating Dennis Short of Stratford-on-Avon for his nomination as Entrepreneur of the Year for Ernst & Young, a well-earned accolade, Prime Minister. Thinking about earnings, was the Prime Minister surprised that so many people in the public sector earn more than he does?
I join my honourable friend congratulating the gentleman he refers to. On the issue of transparency on pay, I think this is an important principle. It's good for democracy, it's good for accountability to see how much people in the public sector are earning, and I also think it will help us to control public spending. When people see how much people are paid in the public sector, the pressure will be on to keep top pay levels down. And while saying that, I think it would be worthwhile, and we are holding a review to get this done, to have a maximum multiple of 20 times earnings. You shouldn't have people at the top of a public sector organisation earning more than 20 times than people at the bottom. And it's going to be that sort of progressive idea that we're looking forward to putting forward on this side of the House.
Tony Perkins.
Does the Prime Minister share the concerns of 2 school teachers from Chesterfield who came to see me this weekend, that children from areas that have got greater deprivation are going to suffer disproportionately from the 10,000 university places he plans to cut?
Well, first of all, can I welcome the honourable gentleman to his place as Member of Parliament for Chesterfield. We can all remember one of his predecessors, Tony Benn, who sat for that seat and left this House saying he wanted to spend more time doing politics. What I would say, what I'd say to the honourable gentleman is that we want to help children from less well-off backgrounds by having a pupil premium. And we're going to take money from outside the education budget to make sure the pupil premium is well funded, so actually children from the poorest homes get to go to the best schools and the money follows the pupil into those schools. In terms of university places, let me say this to him. We are expanding the number of university places by £10,000 compared with by 10,000 in number compared with the legacy that we were left.
Mr. Peter Bone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I press the Prime Minister a little further on excessive pay? My constituents are outraged at the amount of money some senior managers of the NHS are receiving. What can the Coalition do to reduce this excessive expenditure?
Well, I think my honourable friend makes a very good point. The first thing is by having transparency, for the first time, we're able to see who is earning what in the public sector. And I think that will actually cause pressure on top people's pay in the public sector to keep that pay level down. That's the first thing. But in the NHS specifically, as he knows, our plans are all about removing the centralised bureaucracy, partly by removing so many of the centralised targets that have caused that bureaucracy to grow. So our ambition is to make sure the people at the front line, the nurses, the doctors, the people involved in clinical care, that's where the priority is, instead of the endless increase in management that we've seen in recent years.
Bridget Phillipson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents are employed by Nissan and in supply chain jobs. Could the Prime Minister confirm that the £20 million grant awarded to Nissan under the previous government in March will be honoured in order to develop the next generation of electric cars?
Can I welcome the honourable lady to her place and say I too have visited the Nissan plant near Sunderland, and it is an absolute wonder to see that incredible investment that's gone in there and the many jobs that have been created, not just at that plant, but also in the supply chain. I want to see electric cars being developed. When I was at Nissan, we discussed that specifically. In terms of the grant, I don't have a specific answer for her. I will... But it's a funny old thing, you know, I'm going to give accurate answers rather than make them up on the spot. I'd be delighted to let her know about it via a letter as soon as possible. Thank you.
Neil Carmichael.
Mr. Speaker, noting the very high standards of professional care in Stroud and the NHS, can the Prime Minister lend his support to the Stroud Maternity Unit?
Thank you very much for that question. Can I welcome my honourable friend? No, I understand that this maternity unit was actually under threat under a previous administration, and I'm happy to say that with our plans, where the money in the NHS will follow the decisions that local people make with their doctors about where to be treated, I think we'll find that community hospitals across our country can once again breathe easily.
Mr. Nigel Dodds.
Can I associate my right honourable and honourable friends with the tributes to our fallen heroes in Afghanistan that was made earlier? We should always remember them. And in that spirit, can I ask the Prime Minister, right at the outset of a new Parliament and a new administration, to give a categorical assurance to our troops that they will always get the equipment and resources they need on operational duty, to those servicemen and women returning home that they will always get the help and advice they need to return to civilian life, and to our maimed and wounded that for however long it takes, despite all the budgetary pressures, that they will always get the care and compassion that they need and deserve for however long it takes.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question? And I think the way that he put it in terms of both making sure we protect and help those at the front line with everything they need, in terms of looking after their families, and in terms of helping those who are injured, that is what our focus should be. It is all of those things, and it is all through the lifetime of those people. Having visited some of the places like Headley Court, you can see the incredible work now being done. But what we have to realise as a country is not just getting the equipment to the front line, not just renewing the military covenant, so actually we are serving our armed services properly, but recognising these people who have been injured so badly in Iraq and Afghanistan, they are going to need a lifetime of help. And I don't think that the health service yet has fully woken up to the quite right, very high demands that these people will place on all the health services. And that's why I have a strong defence team and a strong health team who are going to work together to make sure we deliver for these people who've done so much for us.
Dr. Julian Lewis.
Number 10, Mr. Speaker.
Afghanistan is my top priority. That is why we've set up a National Security Council and why it met on the first full day of the new government. In terms of the military strategy, we are 6 months into the troop surge ordered by President Obama. That surge is to provide a proper counterinsurgency campaign, protecting the people while tackling the insurgents. We back that strategy. We must give it time to work. There are some signs of progress, such as markets opening up again and better district governance. And as I said in the debate on the Queen's speech, we've got to support that military strategy with a political surge, of which the peace jirga being launched in Kabul today is an example. And I spoke to President Karzai about this yesterday and stressed to him the importance of working towards a political solution where everyone in Afghanistan feels the government of Afghanistan is a government for them.
Dr. Julian Lewis.
Is my right honourable friend aware of the concept of the sovereign base bridgehead area, which could meet our needs in Afghanistan for a fraction of the cost in life, limb and expenditure? And would he consider taking a briefing on this subject in the presence, if possible, of the Service Chiefs of Staff?
Well, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for asking that question. I know he has great expertise about this area. I have understood the idea of a bridgehead. I have to say to him, I think that while it is worth examining, I think there are difficulties with it, which is the current strategy of counterinsurgency is about trying to protect the public in Afghanistan from the insurgency and to enlarge the area of that country where normal life can continue. What is in our national interest? And that's what we should focus on, is an Afghanistan that is stable enough and secure enough for us to bring our troops home. That's what we want to achieve. I will listen to his ideas, but the strategy we have, we've got to give it time to work.
Mr. Ian Davidson.
Comrade Premier, I'm surprised at the reaction. I mean, are we not all in this together? Are the vast majority of us, apart from only a small sect, in favour of strengthening the Union of the United Kingdom? And do the vast majority of us not dislike, distrust and despise the Liberal Democrats? Could I ask whether, in terms of safe bases, would you agree with me that there is no base safer than an aircraft carrier?
I apologise for having to interrupt the honourable gentleman. I was eagerly anticipating on this closed question an inquiry about Afghanistan, but sadly it wasn't forthcoming. Mr. Philip Hollowbone.
What will my right honourable friend be doing to ensure that foreign nationals engaged in terrorist-related activity in this country will be deported back to their country of origin when their evil plots are detected?
I really am grateful to my honourable friend for raising this question. I think it is extremely important when there are people who threaten our country but who and are foreign nationals, but we don't have necessarily the evidence to prosecute them, it is essential we are able to deport them back to their country of origin. And what I've asked the Home Secretary to do, to work with the Foreign Secretary to draw up agreements with as many countries as possible so we are able to deport these people and keep our country safe. All diplomatic effort, including effort from myself as well, will be made sure to make this happen to keep our country safe.
Mr. Gordon Marsden.
Mr. Speaker, I heard what the Prime Minister had to say in respect of a previous question about the military covenant, and as chair of the all-party veterans group, I was relieved to see in the coalition's document a commitment to providing, as part of that, extra support for veteran mental health needs. But I was alarmed then to read that the £2 million that had been set aside by the previous government to support combat stress for mental health needs was under review by the present government. Does that mean, in fact, therefore, that the Prime Minister is able today to renew that commitment to combat stress, or is this a commitment that will fall at the first hurdle?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate him for the work he does in terms of veterans. It is extremely important, and I welcome what he does. What I can say to him is that we have, as I said, a very strong ministerial team at the Department of Health, very strong team at the Ministry of Defence, and I understand the huge pressure that is going to be put on our health services because of mental health stress on people who fought in combat. And we will do everything we can to help them. He has my word, that will happen. And it needs to happen not just this year that our troops are still in Afghanistan, but for all the years into the future. There are figures that suggest that actually more people committed suicide after the Falklands War than were actually killed in combat. So I take this extremely seriously, and he has my word that those services will be properly looked after.
Mr. Philip Davis.
Speaker, I was greatly encouraged by the Prime Minister's response to my honourable friend for Kettering about deporting terrorist suspects, but would he not agree that the most effective way to get rid of these people is to scrap the Human Rights Act?
Well, my honourable friend, as so often, is going to tempt me. He knows very clearly, my view is very clear, that we'd be better off with a British Bill of Rights rather than the Human Rights Act, and that is being examined. But I have to say to him, enthusiastic though I myself am for that policy, actually what's really needed for urgent action is individual agreements with countries like Pakistan to get a guarantee that people we send back there will not be mistreated. Now, with countries like Pakistan, we should be able to achieve that. We are a major aid donor. We are a major partner. We should be able to encourage them to give us that guarantee so we don't have to keep foreign nationals in our country that threaten to do us harm.
Ian Mearns.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I welcome the Prime Minister's recognition of the progress made in the North East economy. And in the economic context, they say that when the United States sneezes, the United Kingdom catches cold and the North East of England gets pneumonia. In that context, I was very sad to learn at the weekend that the Regional Development Agency, One North East, are preparing budgets within year for 40% cuts of their operational output. Does he think that's good medicine for that sort of pneumonia?
Well, first of all, can I welcome the honourable gentleman on his election and to this place. I well remember taking the Conservative Party biannual conference to Gateshead. It was received all right, given what might be expected. What I would come back. How could I refuse an offer like that? What I would say to the honourable gentleman is on the issue of the RDAs, the Regional Development Agencies, what we've said is that in areas of the country where they work well and where local authorities want to keep them as they are, they can. But we believe in many parts of the country, including the part I represent, there is a huge amount of waste in the system, and it would be better to have local enterprise partnerships with councils coming together to support business. But wherever regional assemblies are, regional development agencies are, we think there is a large amount of waste within them. And we think some of the planning functions and some of the transport functions should be given back to local authorities where they belong. And that is what you'll see from this government is, yes, we want to generate enterprise and help businesses to get going, but we also want proper local government which actually controls the things local government ought to do.
Order. Statement the Foreign Secretary.